Place has always mattered to people and economies, but the demands for place have shifted over time. During the 19th century, much of our economic activity was concentrated in the downtowns and the industrial districts of the nation's growing cities. This changed in the 20th century, however, as the advent of the automobile helped drive economic activity and deconcentrate economic activity to the suburbs. In the last several decades, the pendulum has begun to shift back as there's greater demand for certain urban attributes: proximity, density, and walkability. But a lot of that activity is happening in places like waterfront areas or other high amenity districts, often fueled by investments designed to attract highly educated workers. We need this kind of growth to work better for more people and for more places.
Well, I think it's fundamentally an equity issue, whether we have an economy that works for everyone or just for big cities or certain areas within big cities. It's fundamentally about the opportunity for people to make a better future for themselves.
It all starts by recognizing the potential in people. If we're not investing in Black and brown people, then we can always figure out ways to invest in place and not people.
You know, you can think of placemaking as the entire experience between the time you leave your home and arrive at your destination. So if you think about it, it's incredibly important what that fabric means to a person.
One of the real opportunities we see, particularly in places that are struggling, whether they're in an urban context or in a more rural or smaller setting, is the value of their downtowns or their neighborhood commercial districts. Those are places that often there's some degree of economic activity that's already happening there that can be leveraged. They also represent an enormous investment over time of a community's resources. They often have affordable space, they have flexible space, they're dense, they're walkable, they have many of the attributes that we know workers and residents really value today.
Public, private, and civic sector leaders need to understand the unique challenges and the unique opportunities facing different kinds of economic districts, whether that's downtowns or university and medical districts, arts and creative areas, rural main streets, or even suburban districts. And then they need to target their investments to better address the needs of those places.
You can take the example of Campus Martius in Detroit. Downtown Detroit is a miracle of development and reinvestment that no one could ever have envisioned just a few years ago.
What I think the Bass Center can do is to figure out ways we can get everyone involved to realize the principle that we're all in this together.
Through both quantitative and on-the-ground research, the new Bass Center will both demonstrate and advance the idea that place matters to people and economies. The center will work with a range of stakeholders to help document and design model approaches to transformative placemaking. And finally, the center will help facilitate systemic policy and investment reforms that better support place-led economic growth and help innovative placemaking solutions to scale. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Before I get started, first I really want to thank President Allen for his warm remarks, Carol Coletta for her inspiring and really pitch-perfect speech, and to our panelists, whom you will hear from shortly, for sharing their experiences and their insights with us. I also want to thank Amy Liu and my colleagues at Brookings, who have been so supportive as we've prepared for this day, and of course offer a very special thank you for the generosity of Bob and Ann Bass, who have made all of this possible. Finally, many thanks to you for being here today or for sharing the event with us via the webcast. So, today the Metropolitan Policy Program is very excited to be launching the new Ann T. and Robert N. Bass Center for Transformative Placemaking. Each of you is participating in this event to learn more about the center and its ambitions. But you are also here because you care about place. It's a universal truth that place matters to all of us, deeply impacting how, where, and with whom we spend our time, our ability to get from here to there, and our overall physical and emotional well-being. But place also matters to the economy, to the growth and success of businesses, workers, and our communities. So that brings me to the 3 reasons we are launching the Bass Center at this place, the Brookings Metro program, and at this time. First, while place has always mattered to people and economies, new technologies and demographic trends are altering the demands for place. We need to better understand those demands and what they mean for our communities now and in the future. Second, we already know these trends are having many positive impacts, but those benefits are not being equally distributed. Rather, the knowledge economy is leaving too many people and too many places behind. And so the third reason we are launching the center. If market and demographic trends are to work for more people and places, public, private, and civic sector leaders need transformative investments in places and placemaking to be a key part of their solution set. First, we know that new technologies and demographic trends are changing the needs and the demands for place. As you heard me say in the video, the relationship between place and the economy is constantly evolving. In the 19th century, America's cities grew to become not only centers of commerce and trade, but powerhouses of invention and of industry. Within these cities, the variable needs of consumer-serving artisans, retailers, and other businesses, large manufacturing firms, and workers determined where and how they clustered, giving rise to the growth of downtowns and industrial districts. The demands for place dramatically changed during the 20th century, however. The advent of the automobile, coupled with new infrastructure investments, housing and land use policies, and the shifting demands of industry led to the move of people and jobs from central cities to greener and whiter suburban pastures, while leaving many urban communities in decline and in distress. This changing relationship between place and economy has given us the varied patterns of concentration, of dispersion, and of racial and economic segregation that still characterize our cities and our suburbs today. But these patterns aren't static. As with past innovations, today's digital revolution is enabling the creation of new products, services that have the potential to improve our health, our environment, and our overall quality of life. But the digital revolution is also causing disruptive impacts on our growth and our development patterns. First, the desire for greater collaboration among firms and workers, together with a rise in the sharing economy, is causing higher demands for levels of density and proximity that facilitate interaction and exchange of ideas, as well as physical items, from housing to transportation to tools. Further, as more shoppers go online, the country's retail landscape is being shaken. Many brick and mortar establishments located in drivable suburban shopping malls are becoming obsolete, while growing e-commerce establishments are exhibiting mixed patterns of both sprawl and concentration. These trends will continue to have potent impacts on how and where we shop and work. Finally, the rise of flexible and remote work is changing companies' needs for fixed office space. While the full implications of these shifts are yet unknown, they don't bode very well for many existing office developments, particularly isolated or poorly designed back offices whose purpose is becoming increasingly irrelevant. Meanwhile, the growing number of untethered workers to work and to meet where they want means that co-working spaces and flexible offices will compete for well-connected, amenity-rich locations with good Wi-Fi, gathering spaces, and active programming. All of these disruptions that are being caused by the digital revolution are occurring in tandem with a powerful demographic revolution that is having its own complementary impacts on place, with a diversifying population and changing household structures leading to increased demand for more walkable, vibrant communities in which to live, work, and recreate. These trends are yielding many positive impacts. After decades of sprawl and suburban dominance, many U.S. cities are experiencing rebounding populations, growing employment, and new public and private sector investments in infrastructure, real estate, and placemaking. This revitalization is leading to new or revitalized areas of economic activity, particularly in historic downtowns, along waterfronts, and more recently in innovation districts where research institutions and entrepreneurs cluster and connect. These trends are also leading to the rapid rise of more mixed-use, walkable suburban districts. For cities and other communities suffering from years of jobs and of population loss, these trends have brought some really welcome impacts. Chris Lineberger and his colleagues at George Washington University have demonstrated that walkable places yield strong premiums in housing, retail, and office rents over those in more drivable suburban areas, which in turn can have a positive fiscal impact on regenerating places. Joe Courtwright and his colleagues at City Observatory have also shown that the density and vitality of cities impacts wages, with educated workers living in urban areas earning far more than their rural counterparts. Finally, new evidence shows that density and proximity can generate more innovation. In a 2017 Brookings report, Scott Andes found that universities located in downtown areas outpace non-urban universities on a range of innovation indicators, from licensing deals to the number of startups, which might help explain why advanced industry firms and entrepreneurs are increasingly moving to be in the orbit of these institutions. And yet, for all these positive effects, we know that the knowledge economy is also leaving far too many people and too many places behind. In the first place, the knowledge economy is favoring tech-oriented workers over those without digital skills. Brookings research has shown that workers in highly digital occupations like software developers or even financial managers far out-earn those in low digital occupations like cooks or security guards. More than that, these higher wages are disproportionately going to some groups of workers over others. For example, while Black, Latino, and Asian workers comprise 37% of the U.S. workforce, they represent almost 50% of those employed in low-tech jobs like personal care aides, food service, and construction. Conversely, several of these groups are significantly underrepresented in higher-skilled, higher-wage occupations. Unfortunately, many younger Black and Hispanic workers, which are a growing segment of our workforce, lack the education needed to move up the occupational ladder and fill positions left by aging baby boomers, a fact which threatens both their and the nation's long-term economic success. But not only are these inequities impacting people, they're dividing places too. Across the country, the digital economy is rewarding large global centers that are attracting innovative companies and highly educated workers, while many older industrial cities and heartland communities, particularly small and mid-sized cities and rural towns, struggle to keep pace. We witnessed this superstar city phenomenon playing out this week, with Amazon announcing that it will locate its new headquarters in the New York City and DC regions here in Arlington, two very big metros that, as my colleague Alan Berube has shown, also have the largest pools of tech workers in the nation. Many of these same trends are playing out within regions. Recent research by the Economic Innovation Group show how prosperous areas within metros have been adding firms and jobs, while other communities continue to face decline and disinvestment. In many regions, these trends are reinforcing or even exacerbating the spatial disparities created by decades of housing and land use policies and practices that devalued, segregated, and sometimes physically destroyed low-income and minority communities. Meanwhile, in many strong market areas, low and moderate income residents can no longer afford to live in neighborhoods that are in or near growing job hubs, limiting their ability to physically access employment. So, all this brings me to the third reason we are launching the Bass Center. As I've described, major market and demographic forces are altering the demands for place, yielding rewards for some people and for some communities. But in an era marked by stark inequities, by income and wealth, by race and ethnicity, by geography, local and regional leaders from big cities to small towns are hungry to harness these forces in ways that produce more widespread economic benefits. This provides both an urgency and a tremendous opportunity to reimagine our approach to place and to help communities invest in transformative solutions, in transformative placemaking, at a scale and with an ambition to meet the needs of businesses and of people wherever they live and work. This means investing in a range of areas where new approaches to transformative placemaking have the potential to leverage existing assets in new and powerful ways. For example, it will mean making transformative placemaking investments in small and mid-sized rural communities like Newcastle, Wyoming, which are looking to reverse job and population loss by remaking their downtown main streets, diversifying their economies through tourism, locally grown entrepreneurship, and a focus on the arts and creative enterprises, all the while leveraging the perks of small-town living. It will mean making transformative placemaking investments in culturally rich urban communities, like the Bronzeville community in Chicago, whose existing economic and physical assets make them well-positioned for job and business growth, yet which continue to be challenged by the lasting effects of disinvestment and discriminatory policies and practices that have stymied economic opportunity. It will mean making transformative placemaking investments in suburban research and business parks, like Columbia Gateway in Maryland, where sterile, car-centric design patterns that worked, frankly, quite well for many decades are no longer meeting the needs of many tenants and workers, putting them at a competitive disadvantage to more dynamic urban economic districts. And it will mean making transformative placemaking investments in growing economic districts, like the downtown Chattanooga Innovation District, for example, where investments in physical and economic assets are driving rapid residential and job growth, but which are feeling the pressures of rising real estate values and the risk of social and economic exclusion. Finally, it will mean understanding the needs and dynamics of other types of economic districts, of hospital districts, urban manufacturing districts, arts districts, market and food districts, where place and placemaking is or has the potential to bring people together, to generate creativity and new ideas, and drive economic growth that is equitable and inclusive. But we can't get there from here. For decades, planners, community development groups, and other place-focused organizations and practitioners have worked to elevate the importance of place and placemaking in fostering more economically, socially, and environmentally responsible development. Indeed, over the past several decades, the Main Street and smart growth movements have helped leaders understand that reinvesting in existing communities is fiscally and ecologically more sustainable than promoting sprawl. The community development field has long engaged in place-based efforts to revitalize distressed urban neighborhoods and better the lives of their residents. And the work of Project for Public Spaces and other organizations has helped the very word placemaking gain ever-increasing currency among community and civic leaders who are working to foster greater community engagement, enhance and activate the public realm, promote better health, or otherwise improve quality of life. Yet for all their positive impacts, these efforts are constrained by policies, practices, and investment structures that are failing to keep pace with the changing needs of firms, institutions, and workers, hampering the scope and the scale of their impact. In short, we need new knowledge, new practices and tools, and new policies and investment strategies that better support place-led development. Transformative placemaking first requires new knowledge. Working with national and local researchers and practitioners and tapping into the expertise that exists here at Brookings, the Bass Center aims to expand what we know about the new demands for place, deeply exploring such questions as what do businesses and workers in different sectors of the economy need today from place? In what ways will this continue to influence the geography of regional business and job growth? And how should all this inform where and how to prioritize infrastructure, economic development, and placemaking investments within cities and regions? Transformative placemaking requires new practices and new tools. Working with leaders and practitioners on the ground in economic districts across the country, the Bass Center will investigate what placemaking investments are driving transformative impacts and how can they be tailored to other communities. How do we design and implement creative new placemaking practices that help grow local businesses and jobs, foster innovation, and improve access, opportunity, and engagement? And how can the next generation of place management organizations help break down existing policy and practice silos to drive these outcomes? Finally, transformative placemaking requires new integrated policies and investment strategies to support and connect economic districts in ways that increase economic growth and opportunity. Working with state and regional economic development, planning, and infrastructure professionals, the Bass Center will aim to reform the way we regulate and invest in our places, focusing on such big questions as: how do we revamp outmoded land use policies to support dynamic economic districts instead of auto-dependent sprawl? How can transportation investments be targeted to create more walkable, bikeable, and connected economic districts? And how can economic development investments be more intentional and less reactive to the latest new program? Think empowerment zones, promise zones, or more recently, opportunity zones, or new windfall opportunity. Think Amazon H2Q. Through all these efforts, and working in close collaboration with Project for Public Spaces and the National Main Street Center, the Bass Center for Transformative Placemaking will inspire public, private, and civic sector leaders to make transformative place investments that generate widespread social and economic benefits. William Holly White once said, "The spectacle of people following current custom for lack of will or imagination to do anything else is hardly a new failing." We should read these words not as a lament for the often slow embrace of new ideas, nor should we use them as an excuse to idly fall back on the practices of the past. Rather, we should see this quote as motivation to summon the will and use our collective imaginations to create a better place-led future. The Bass Center hopes to do just that by undertaking new analysis, engaging in communities, and building a broad network of change makers working in and for communities around the country. We hope that you will join us in our efforts. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos from Brookings.